Hey, what's up, everyone? We got a couple things right off the bat to get into. I stand corrected piece. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us why we're all
Is
wearing...
it a chiropractor?
No.
Did we get any chiropractor emails?
No.
We didn't get it.
I had no one write in to say, hey, the ring dinger's actually pretty legit. No.
It's because chiropractors don't listen to podcasts on medical science.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
big
That was a
Whoa,
joke.
look out.
That was a joke. Hey, nice, sweet.
All right, so why are we wearing green shirts, Bri? Why do I have 4 green lanyards on?
We're late for St. Patty's Day.
Can you do the
Oh,
That other
that's the one.
Great. We are wearing green shirts because today, the day that this episode comes out, is Green Shirt Day.
And what is
That's
Green
it.
Shirt Day, Brian?
Green Shirt Day. Here, let me read it because if I don't read it, I'll mess it up. But it's basically to raise awareness for organ and tissue donation.
very important. Very important indeed.
And do you know why it's a green shirt?
Especially if you're outside of Nova Scotia.
Yes. So I just looked that up. Did you guys know that? I mean, obviously you know, Taylor, because of that comment that you just said. But did you know that Nova Scotia is the only opt-out?
I didn't know it was the only
program?
one. I knew that it. I knew that it was.
I thought it was Canada-wide.
I knew it was the first one. I didn't know it was the only one.
So
Wow.
as far as I could tell
Holy.
from the dates of the articles here, they came from like 2021 and 2022. Nova
Wow.
Scotia was the only one to do opt-out.
Wow. Oh
Organ
my God, dude!
donation.
I had no idea. I thought it was.
It's honestly shocking.
I thought it was just Canada-wide.
It is, and
I feel like
this
we've
is,
been talking about it like it's Canada-wide.
So this is also no. I don't think we have, but
No, I don't
this
think
is
so.
so this is interesting. Okay, consider this. So Green Shirt Day in honor of the Logan Boulet effect. So we did an entire episode about this last year.
Yeah.
But Logan Boulet played for the Humboldt Broncos, was in the bus accident, and tragically lost his life. And in support of organ donor awareness registration across Canada, this is the Logan Boulet effect. So on April 6, 2018, Canadians were heartbroken to hear the news of the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. Of the 29 passengers, 16 lost their lives and 13 will all bear physical and emotional scars for life.
Mhm.
On the following day, on April 7th, Broncos defenseman Logan Boulet succumbed to his injuries. His parents, Bernadine and Toby Boulet, offered to donate his organs so that 6 lives could live on. They did so because Logan told his parents he was registering as an organ donor and that he was inspired by his coach and mentor, Rick. And Rick also passed on he passed before the accident on June 27th, 2017, and was also an organ donor. So from that event and the news about Logan, saving these 6 lives, it's estimated that almost 150,000 people registered in the following days and weeks.
Wow.
After the accident. And
Is that like
Wow.
a giant uptick?
it's the biggest uptick that they've ever experienced in
Wow.
organ and tissue
I mean,
donation.
that sounds like a lot.
And so, but here's the thing though. So it is. It's the most,
Yeah.
the most that
It
they've
is,
seen.
Yeah.
But also think about the fact that when they switched Nova Scotia to opt out,
Right.
there's now 1 million people, unless they state otherwise,
Yes.
who are going to donate their
Yeah.
organ and
I'd
organ
be
and tissues.
fascinated to know
Wow.
the percentage that's opting out.
Yeah,
I'd be really, really
I
curious.
would guess it's a pretty small percentage.
I think so
Do you think
too.
it's like
Yeah.
less than 10?
Yeah,
I do.
because you're gonna have the people that, like, whether it's like for religious reasons or whatever, where they're
Mhm.
absolutely like, fuck yeah, like I gotta go to Access Nova Scotia now to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're gonna have the people that and so they do, right? But then you're gonna have the people that are like, I don't know if I feel comfortable about that. Maybe I'm gonna change that, but
No, they don't.
They don't
then they
really
just
care.
don't, because it's
Yeah.
like you gotta go to the thing and do the thing, and it's a thing. So it's like you just don't see it. So I would guess it's quite a small amount, and
Yeah.
it's the amount of people that are really fucking staunchly against the idea or thought.
And you know
Yeah.
what? It's fine either way. If you're not comfortable donating your organs or tissue, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
should.
to each their own.
But it's fine.
However,
However,
like
you don't actually get anybody else's when you need them. And that's also what Nova Scotia's doing these days.
That would be so wild.
That would
Can
be
you
wild.
imagine if that was the
That would
rule?
be fucking crazy.
But you know what's interesting is that I would bet that in the opt-in framework, there are a bunch of people who would actively want to do it, who just don't get around to actually opting in.
Totally.
And therefore, there's a bunch of people who like you don't end up with that same situation with opt out.
Right.
You know, the people who really want to opt out will really opt out.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Jared, the people who are like on the fence who just don't really get around to it,
Yeah.
who might not be fully convinced but are like more on the fence,
Which like
they're going to end up donating, which is great.
Exactly. Which in the inverse of that, if it was the other way around, like you're gonna I mean, regardless, you're gonna have more people that are okay with donating than not.
Mhm.
But you're definitely gonna have more people that are not gonna take the time to opt in than do.
It's
Here's-
like it's a lot like voting. Like there's tons of people who just they
Yeah.
never go and cast a vote
Yep.
for an election because
Yeah.
it's like it takes time and it's maybe it's not the most convenient thing to be going somewhere in the middle of the day, whatever. It's like it's got some aspect of inconvenience to it that always sort of trumps the moral maybe drive that you feel to go and do that. And I think Oregon, if it's opt in, I think you feel that. Like I
Yeah.
was probably not opting into organ donation for quite a few years before I ultimately was, just
Yeah.
because I didn't check
Didn't
the
get around
box
to
or
it.
whatever.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because like there's a really easy way to think of it. If you could argue that more than half of the population are for this thing, and that thing also serves a net benefit to society at large, it should just be by default opt out.
Yeah.
Right? Like why wouldn't it otherwise?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some stupid bureaucratic reason why some other I'm sure a government official would give you a probably pretty dumb reason why
Yeah.
their
100%.
province hasn't done
Well,
that.
but when you really break it down to put it that simply, it just makes sense that it should be that way.
And then you don't need, or not that you don't need things like Green Shirt Day, but they become less crucial, which is the idea.
Yeah,
Like,
but we
like-
you want a green shirt there. I mean, look at us. We're
No.
wearing green shirts.
No, all of these, like every cause that's out there, ideally you don't need a day because everyone's got it.
But then
Everyone's got the message.
But then you keep
know?
the day. You keep the day to remember the old days. You know.
Well, I mean, St. Patty's Day came from somewhere, right? Like there
right.
was like it probably came from a similar Green Shirt Day. You know, there was some sort of cause and something happened. and
Religion,
now,
I think.
Now it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
celebration,
Yeah.
right? Like hopefully Green Shirt Day for the recognizing the Logan Boulet effect can
And-
become that.
Yeah, like
You know,
a bunch of people
there-
just get
we
fucking
don't-
wasted
Yeah.
in the afternoon. Just
I
going
don't
out
think
getting
St.
drunk.
Patty's here is what St. Patty's like is. You know
No,
what I mean?
but
Just
that's
the
my
way that,
point. That's
like
my point.
Christmas is not Christmas. You know what I mean?
But that's my point. So we should have a St. Boulet Day 500 years from now. That's just
Maybe.
like, hey,
Yeah.
organ and tissue
Yeah.
donation was solved, but now we just get
Now,
drunk.
now,
Yeah.
now we just put loonies in pancakes.
No, that's not
Yes,
a thing.
right.
So today is Green Shirt Day, and just remember, organ donation is important. And
If
you
you're
haven't-
outside,
if you're
Nova
outside Nova
Scotia.
Scotia, if you haven't opted in, and you think to yourself, well, I would opt in, then fucking do it.
and if you have your driver's license renewal coming up, which is probably where you opt in, most likely, because when before Nova Scotia was opt out, that's where you did it. Whenever
the
you
DMV.
got your license renewed, they renew your license and you check the box that you want to opt in
Yeah.
when you get your license renewed. It's
I wonder-
probably the same in most provinces.
I wonder-
I'd imagine.
Where you would do that before you were like 16. I mean, I guess I had like a government
Your
ID.
parents
still
would do
before
it.
Your
that.
parents
Your parents would
basically
do it
make
for
the
you.
decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of decisions, I have made a decision to come forward and correct myself based on a correction that was sent to me through one of our Discord members who would like to remain anonymous, and I appreciate that. That's
Anonymous on the show or anonymous in general?
anonymous on the show here. And probably anonymous in general in life. Like I think they're just an anonymous type of person.
They're like
Actually,
they're a hacker.
their account was anonymous.
Oh, okay.
And they had like the Jacques.
Yep.
The
hmm
what's his name?
The V for Vendetta.
Yeah,
vest?
that mask.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jacques something.
I can't remember.
Anyway.
Guy.
Yeah, Guy Lafluck. So anyway, so Anonymous hit me up.
Guy.
And
Gear guy. Is it gear guy? Guy Fox.
Guy Fox, thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Guy Fox.
Guy
Guy Fox.
He was from Quebec. It was Guy Fox.
Okay, so anyway, someone reached out. And a couple episodes back, I was saying how if you're in a long-term relationship with a partner, you know, like you've been married for a couple of years, you've been with your partner for a couple of years before that, and you're having sex, there's no point in getting STI checks or STD checks. Or you know, if you're in a long-term relationship and like, you know, this is the only person you've been banging, it's like, what's the point in getting an STD check unless you find out that they cheated on you?
Mm-hmm.
So I said that, and I think you guys were like, yeah, like we all agree with that.
I wasn't. I definitely disagree. I was like, for sure. I
Shut
was
the
lit.
fuck up, Brian. You agreed.
I did. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Anonymous hit me up, and they said, hey, just a heads up, there is definitely a reason to get tested for sexually transmitted infections if you have a steady partner and develop symptoms. You know, so if you start having like an itchy pee hole, or like green goop coming out of your wee wee.
Well, I just went to the doctor, and my doctor asked me if I had any other sexual partners. I mean, I guess that's a pretty routine question.
Sure. But they said there definitely is a reason to get tested for sexually transmitted infections if you have a steady partner and develop symptoms. Some people don't show symptoms for months or even years, but can still transmit certain infections. This can be a potentially concerning risk if the initially uninfected partner is immunocompromised or pregnant. Some STIs can be tetragenic. P.S. I have a master's degree in epidemiology.
I thought you were going to say sleuthing.
P.S. I Googled it.
You know what? Maddie is getting an STI check right now. Actually, like an hour or two ago, because
She doesn't trust you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. She's part of her sexual health class. You get a bonus point in
If
your
you get
class
an
for
STD
getting an
check.
STI check.
Cool.
Do you think you should get a bonus point for getting an STI check?
No.
I mean, it's
does
not
it
a bad
like
thing.
is a bonus like does a bonus? Is it worth a lot? Like, what's a bonus point?
I don't know. That's what she
Like, is
she
it-
told me.
like
She
a-
was
like,
going for the bonus.
She gets a
point.
pat on the back, basically.
She told me she was going
She
for
gets
the
a
bonus point.
She
and
gets
so
a 0.001 bump in her grade.
Anyway, Anonymous also said, by the way, I work in health disparities related to infant mortality, and we're seeing a spike in infant mortalities related to syphilis.
Oh, interesting.
Whoa.
And they provided me with a article from WHO, who publishes new estimates on congenital syphilis.
who was it?
Who? There's a global decrease, but the cases remain high, causing 200,000 stillbirths and newborn deaths every year. 200,000
From syphilis?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So new estimates published today show that there were more than 500,000, around 661,000 total cases of congenital syphilis in 2016, resulting in over 200,000 stillbirths and neonatal deaths. Syphilis is one of the most common sexually transmitted infections globally, with approximately 6 million new cases each year. If a pregnant woman who is infected does not receive early and effective treatment, she can then transmit the infection to her unborn infant.
Whoa.
This is known as congenital syphilis, which is often fatal. It can also cause low birth weight, prematurity, and other congenital deformities. Congenital syphilis is the second leading cause of preventable stillbirth globally, preceded by only by malaria.
Wow. Man, the more you know, right?
Right? So congenital syphilis is easily preventable and treatable as long as testing and treatment are provided to pregnant women early during antenatal care.
I don't know.
A-N-T-E natal, all
Yeah.
one word.
Hmm.
Antenatal care?
Yeah.
I don't know that word. What is
Neither.
that? Antenatal care. Antenatal is before birth, prenatal.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, what?
It's,
But what is
it's-
prenatal?
It's
Just as different.
same. I think
Wait.
it's what the British say.
Antenatal.
Antenatal.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so
Antenatal.
Antenatal.
okay, so yeah,
Antenatal.
Antenatal.
it is.
But I thought syphilis. See, that's so interesting. I mean, this is just. I mean, I'm totally talking out of my ass. I'm talking out of my ass about what I thought I knew, which was that I thought syphilis, if left untreated, I thought syphilis was something that these days easy to treat,
You're thinking of gonorrhea.
get symptoms. Syphilis. No, it's syphilis as well, I believe.
Dude, syphilis will kill you.
No, I know, if untreated.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I think it was such a horrific disease because you couldn't treat it at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
But
And then
syphilis
yeah.
is
If
easy to treat.
I believe so, but maybe that's a misunderstanding.
No, I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, they just said that like congenital syphilis is also easily preventable and treatable.
Yeah, right.
But if your baby gets syphilis, that's no bueno.
So
Like,
that's what I
yeah.
mean. I'm going, well, if it's so easy to treat and maybe this, and I guess I would assume then that at least the lion's share of these infant mortalities are due to syphilis are coming from maybe like sub-Saharan Africa or like areas where the healthcare system is
Well,
do you guys-
how
non-existent.
about this? Antibiotics can treat syphilis in the early stages. So obviously you want to get treated early. And it's, probably won't be a big deal. If Anonymous is probably going to email me now. We probably said something, and now I gotta correct myself again. Thank you, Anonymous. I'm not saying I don't want it, but like I wish we knew something.
Just wish we were
Syphilis doesn't
smarter.
cause long-term health problems if you receive treatment early. But if syphilis is not treated, it can cause serious health problems, including neurologic problems, brain and nerve, eye problems, and even blindness. In addition, syphilis is linked to an increased risk of transmission of HIV infection. Syphilis
Guys.
just sounds like
Yeah.
a real pain in the dick.
You know what I'm realizing? You
know
what
what
I'm
I mean?
realizing?
Yeah, I do.
Do you guys know how like
You know what I'm
like,
saying?
I do know.
You guys know how like the
Sorry.
baby version of like the
Nice.
baby version of everything is cute? How did you have that queued up?
Yeah, that was a strange one to have queued up.
Because I'm just that good.
But you know how the baby version of everything is cute?
Yeah.
Well, it's not actually. Baby diseases are like the
Yeah.
worst. You know, like
yeah.
like if you just pick a random object or thing like a tree, and you're like a baby tree,
Yeah.
and you think of it, you're like, oh, that's so cute. It's like a little sapling.
Yeah.
But if you think of like baby cancer,
Not cute. Not cute.
Yeah.
Anything baby health related is very not cute.
Yeah.
and I used to
I
think
have
baby
become-
made everything cute.
I have recently become quite sensitive
Yeah.
to baby health issues.
I bet you there is something cute though about like a baby tumor.
Yeah, you.
And like
Yeah.
not a tumor on a baby or in a baby, but if you took a giant fucking tumor and then you put it next to a little baby tumor, it'd be like it's a little cute. Little
You're
tumor.
right. Actually, I stand
You know what I mean?
corrected.
Like,
you are totally
like
right.
in a
Like
vet-
a baby tooth.
Yeah,
Take a
like-
big fucking honking like
Yeah.
oh god tooth,
Yeah.
and then like a little baby tooth.
What about a baby cough?
Mm.
Oh, dude, baby sneezes. Baby sneezes are so cute.
Saya sneezes all the time.
Oh, little baby.
I can see what you mean when you're in a total vacuum comparison of two tumors.
Yeah.
How one could be.
That's what I mean.
If one relative to the other could be cuter.
But when it's in
Do you-
the
do you-
baby, it's
Do-
not.
all right,
No,
how about
not-
this?
no,
Do you think
not.
a screwdriver can be cute? No one thinks that. But when
But
you
a
see a little baby
baby-
screwdriver,
When you see a little baby screwdriver.
my point.
it's so cute.
That's my point. A
Yeah.
baby version of anything is cute, except for the
Except-
way that a baby disease affects a baby.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not cute.
that's
Because
not
it's
cute.
more gnarly than usually
Yeah.
an ad. Like syphilis in a grown person can fuck them up.
Yeah.
But syphilis can really fuck up a baby.
Well,
baby
so
I
syphilis.
think
much-
it can
so
really
much so
fuck
that
up
it's-
everybody because I
so-
think it can be deadly
Yeah.
regardless of size.
And it's really fucking up babies because because a lot of babies are dying from it. So
Right.
it's bad. So anyway, back to this because again we're being corrected here.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
let's fucking get the correction out because I don't want to fuck this up anymore.
It's sounding more and more like this came from Louise.
No, it came from Anonymous, and I don't want them to break into my fucking bank account and steal my identification. It's Anonymous, guys.
Okay.
You don't fuck with Anonymous. They
No.
fuck with the FBI.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The guy Fox.
They hack hackers.
The risk of adverse outcomes to the fetus is minimal if a pregnant woman infected with syphilis receives testing and adequate treatment with benzathine penicillin early in pregnancy, ideally before the second trimester. So like quite early. Co-authored by who and HRP with partners. And
Halifax
published,
Regional Police.
yep, and published in the scientific journal PLOS One.
I'm Klaus.
PLOS. PLOS 1. PLOS 1. The new estimates show that out of the 661,000 total cases of congenital syphilis, there were, unfortunately, 355,000 adverse birth outcomes, which represents a significant proportion of new birth death and disease. The estimate showed that the overall global burden of congenital syphilis decreased over the 2012 to 2016 research period, although non-significantly from around 750,000 to 660,000 cases.
Okay, does it say specifically if this is happening in a certain region, or is this happening everywhere?
They're saying that I believe this is the world. This is across the world.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, is it predominantly happening in one geographic region?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
They don't say who.
Who? So anyway, the WHO is working towards the goal of eliminating mother-to-child transmission of syphilis, and success has already been made in several parts of the world. In recent years, 12 countries have been validated by WHO as having eliminated mother-to-child transmissions of syphilis and or HIV. 12 countries.
Do they say
Who?
those are?
They don't. They're really anonymous about that.
Interesting.
So there you go. Thank you, Anonymous, for the correction. And we love that stuff. So, you can email us, info@sickboypodcast.com if you ever have a comment or a correction. Or you can become a part of our Discord, and then you can do what Anonymous did, which was personally message me a private message on Discord.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
And,
We love learning.
Now we know why we should still get an STD check.
Yeah.
So
So
if you got symptoms.
now,
Guys, you
especially
guys
if
keep
you're
saying STD.
STI.
STI,
Is it now
STD?
as like?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
just
has it
changed-
been STI for like
Yeah, they just
like
changed.
20 years or
Well, I don't know. Who cares?
or do people just still say STD?
Disease, infection, tomato.
I'm sure I'm sure we're going to get corrected, and someone's going to go, actually, that's wrong.
Well, I corrected
but,
you on behalf of them.
ST no is
Yeah.
what we'll say from here on out.
Okay.
So you get tested for your ST no-nos. Let's move on to something that I thought was quite interesting, and I would like to hear your guys' take on why this is.
Wow. What a hole.
What a hole. Do you guys know what that's from?
No, I don't.
Home Alone. Why do holes feel larger with your tongue than they do with your fingers?
Oh, we're not talking about
I don't
downstairs holes.
even know
We're
if
talking
I
about-
have the capacity to laugh at that.
I know what we're talking about immediately
what are we
because I
talking
know this. We're talking about holes in your mouth.
No, not. I mean, not. No, we're not. I mean, we could be.
Yeah.
Holes
we're
in
talking about-
general.
We're
You know-
talking about holes in general. We could be talking about buttholes.
No, we're not because we're talking about like if you get your
I know.
wisdom.
I read the fucking article. What are you talking about?
I'm telling you. So
You're not telling me shit,
You know,
dude.
when you take your tongue and you like have you guys had your wisdom teeth out?
Yes.
I have.
So do you know when you like have your wisdom teeth out and you can stick your tongue in
Yes.
the socket and like kind of feel it?
Yes.
And
Isn't
it
it-
feels like a fucking gaper.
Feels gaping.
Feels gaped.
And when you stick your finger in there, it feels much less gaped. Right?
It is gaping. And
But
you're
right.
right. And you're right,
Right.
Brian. You're right about that. So why? Why does the hole in your mouth or
You know why? I
any
know
other
why.
kind of hole
I know why.
feel so much larger than with your tongue than with your finger?
I
Because
think
your
beca-
tongue is a mollusk. It's mollusk-esque.
What?
And it shifts shapes, and it can shift shapes. Like
All right.
it can shift shapes,
All
and your
right.
finger cannot. Your finger is static, and it's
Yeah.
stuck in the shape and the rigidity and the width that it is. But your tongue has a lot of mobility.
I know why.
All right.
It's
What do you think?
I think because you need to be acutely aware of sensitivities with your tongue, so you have more little receptors that trigger a larger part of your brain than with your fingers. Whereas your fingers can be. I can't believe you didn't play that for the shapeshifter.
Well,
Hey.
because Taylor, we have a winner. Ding, 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 ding. As anyone who's ever seen an optical illusion or heard a non-existent sound knows, our senses play tricks on us all the time. Another example of this is the oral size illusion.
I like that illusion.
Objects, especially holes, can feel much larger or small. Why is this so funny? Larger or smaller, depending on whether we are feeling them with our tongue or our finger. And a recent study published in the Journal of Experimental Hole Play.
Stop it.
Experimental Psychology, Human Perception and Performance, laid out the science behind the phenomenon. As Discover reports, Small holes felt with the tongue seem larger than felt with a finger. If your mind's already in the gutter, please get it out now. It only gets worse from here.
What holes are we feel like?
All holes. All holes.
I'm just question.
All holes.
I'm just a question.
I
though.
mean, specifically, they're talking about assholes.
Just a question because legitimately, what holes are we touching with our tongues other than those holes?
I mean, sinkholes, assholes,
Sorry, assholes? Are you talking
Like
about assholes?
other than
Nose
buttholes
holes,
and
ear
and
holes,
vaginas,
eye
what
holes.
holes is your tongue going in?
Dude, like an ice cream cone hole?
ice cream cone hole. Yeah, there's lots of holes, dude.
There's
Don't-
not
don't-
that
donut-
many holes though.
Donut holes?
I feel like
Manholes?
it would be more common to think about
Toilet
those
bowls.
holes, the sexual holes, than the other holes.
I mean,
right?
that's definitely the easiest way to go.
but isn't that the default way? Really? Like
what about harmonica holes?
I've
Yep,
never
harmonica holes.
stuck my tongue in a
holes,
harmonica hole.
Really?
Well, then you've never played a harmonica.
Yeah.
You don't stick your tongue in it.
No, I know, but
you,
yeah,
no,
well,
yes, you
I mean,
do.
you don't-
You're that's what all the holes on a harmonica are meant to be plugged with your tongue. That's how you get the difference. That is how you play a harmonica.
Is it?
Yeah, the way
Yeah.
you get different sounds of a harmonica is covering
I'm
the
certainly
holes with your tongue.
Oh,
I'm-
well, then
Did
there
you not
go.
know this?
I did not know that.
guys.
That's actually how you play a harmonica.
I think I'm better at the other thing than playing the harmonica. Just by practice,
You mean
by the
like-
amount that I practice,
Licking dudes' buttholes?
like cunnilingus. I think I practice that more than I practice playing the harmonica.
There's only two ways to hurt your neck.
All right, let's
Dude,
let's just
we
move on.
can't do this all the time.
All right, here we go. So,
I hope nobody from the Nova Scotia Health Authority is listening to this podcast right now.
All right. So, researchers conducted 5 experiments to test a hole's perceived size under different circumstances. When including when sensed with the tongue, the index finger, and the big toe.
Okay, this got weird.
Oh, too big. They found out that the more pliable the appendage is, the bigger the space it's exploring seems to be.
There you go.
The squishy tongue has an easier time bending around and conforming to different surfaces, painting a more accurate picture of what it's feeling and enhancing the size in our minds. A finger doesn't squeeze into a butthole quite the same way. So the sensory information it conveys is less accurate.
I can't tell if
A
you're just
toe
adding.
also isn't as pliable as the tongue and leads to the person attached to it to believe they are feeling a lot of resistance from the butthole when it's actually smaller than it seems. The oral size illusion doesn't apply to all objects. For example, a previous study found that it was much more likely to be triggered by holes than cylindrical pegs. This could be why when our teeth fall out as kids, the holes they leave behind feel cavernous compared to the teeth that used to be there. This is just another reminder that we shouldn't always blindly trust the signals our bodies send to us while eating out someone's asshole.
Guys, this was groundbreaking. I'm super happy we covered it. I feel informed. I feel intellectual.
I actually feel in the dark. Because
and,
I'm really curious what types of holes they were testing in the study.
They said it, buttholes. Shout out to Stina. Thank you. That
That's
was
what you
that was a Stina special.
Thank you, Stina.
Let's move on to another one from our Discord babies. This is from Jen McGee, and this is actually this is some legit Feel Good Friday news. For the first time in years, researchers have identified a new susceptibility gene for breast cancer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So researchers have identified a new gene linked to the hereditary breast cancer susceptibility in what they are calling a landmark study. The discovery of the gene, ATRIP.
The gene
That's
is
a
called
trip.
ATRIP.
ATRIP, ATRIP. A trip. Marks the first time in years that a new susceptibility gene has been pinpointed, bringing scientists one step closer to a full understanding of hereditary breast cancer. Breast cancer accounts for the highest number of cancer-related deaths in women globally, with around 1 in 8 women in Canada developing the disease in their lifetime. That's a fucking
Whoa.
crazy number.
Developing.
Yes, not dying from it,
Yeah.
but 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer
Yeah.
in their lifetime.
What's that? That's like 12%.
That's fucking
or
nuts.
Something like that.
That's
right?
nuts. And that's just breast cancer.
The
The discovery of ATRIP could lead to more frequent and targeted screenings to catch breast cancer earlier, as well as opening up more therapies or treatments that focus on genes. The gene is linked to DNA stress replication and appears to be less common than other gene mutations linked to hereditary breast cancer. However, when a person has mutations in ATRP, they are significantly more likely to develop breast cancer. The discovery could also explain why scientists frequently encounter patients where breast cancer runs in the family, but none of the family members have well-known gene mutations connected to breast cancer, such as BRCA1, BRCA2. ATRP was identified by examining the genetic sequencing of 510 women with hereditary breast cancer in Poland, with 2 women out of the 510 having the rare mutation in ATRP. From this small starting point, researchers were able to scan through data on 16,000 further Polish patients with breast cancer, finding the gene variation in 42. To confirm the findings, researchers then looked at data in the UK Biobank, a database containing health information on 450,000 individuals. What they found was that the certain mutations in ATRP were significantly predictive of breast cancer development, and that it wasn't merely affecting women of Polish descent. ATRP is critical to the process of specialized proteins binding to a single-stranded DNA where DNA replication has stalled. When this gene is properly activated, it helps elicit a damage response if there is stress in the replication process of the DNA. Essentially, this gene needs to be functioning correctly to signal to the body after DNA damage and for proteins to bind correctly. All cancers are caused by changes in DNA that lead to cells dividing uncontrollably and spreading into other tissues of the body, forming what we know as tumors. Some tumors cuter than others.
Some of them, yeah.
Guys, this
AI
is
is going to change the world on this.
I was thinking the exact same
Yeah.
thing. Like, this is how I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't using AI in understanding that to begin with. Like,
I mean, just being able to
Perhaps.
compute.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, having access to the data is probably the bottleneck in terms of like anything that's AI related. Like, if you can feed it the data, then it's gonna find something. And I guess like in terms of healthcare and studies and stuff, that's probably the missing link in a lot of things, is like being able to gather the data, or having the data come from like a succinct, concise location,
I
being able to like patchwork together a bunch of countries. Like if you had access to, I mean, if again, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of like security and issues with this, but if like every country could just like open up the valve on their medical data, in some type of utopian privacy way, where
What are you, some sort of fucking commie?
but I agree with you
and
for
that
sure.
AI was able to analyze it.
For sure,
to be able to find
The,
something very cool.
the data exists.
Yeah,
It's just like what are the privacy concerns around
yeah.
releasing that, or letting that be accessible to these types of like machine learning, or
I mean, because we already see privacy issues, like even amongst we were speaking not that long ago about like something that's coming into effect in Nova Scotia, which is the one person, one record policy,
Mhm.
which basically means that like people can move around different health providers around the province without having to like go get a stack of paper records and take them to a
Yeah.
new person and blah, 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 blah. And the reason that existed in a lot of ways, or in some ways, in part, was because of privacy. And
But it should, so like in a system which I think we're moving towards this. Well, we are in Nova Scotia, and I think that this will become more common. But this should be in contrast to the opt-out organ and tissue donation. This should be an opt-in thing where like I know personally, I wouldn't mind sharing my, like if I could go on 23andMe and click a box that said share my DNA test with researchers who want access to my data to hopefully come up with.
I actually think I saw an ad. I think I saw an ad recently that was like, if you've done any of these DNA tests, 23andMe and
Mhm.
other companies, it was something similar to that, where it was like you could like be a part of this like data analytics survey.
Now,
or
I don't
whatever.
want to poo poo on that. But remember when we And this is going like way, like this is going to the nth degree of
I would
like,
opt in for that.
of the bad side of
Yeah.
opting in, right? So someone who goes, I opted in for donating my body to medical research, or grandpa's donating his body to medical research, and then
Yeah.
like the next year you're like, you find out like, whatever happened to grandpa's body? Let's look into it. Oh, the U.S. military put grandpa in a Humvee and they blew the Humvee up to see
Yeah.
where grandpa's body parts would fly.
Yeah.
Like,
People taking advantage of the system.
right,
in some
exactly.
ways, or-
And so, but taking advantage of like,
that will always exist in some way.
yeah. But do you think like maybe there's like some sort of way that they could take advantage of that information and then like clone you?
I mean, there's lots
You
of
know,
like
some like
ways.
really fucky dark.
Well, my thing, it really depends on your risk profile. Like for me, I have a very low risk profile, and so like I would be
That's
willing.
because you have that parasite.
yeah, yeah,
That cat's
Right.
piss shit.
Yeah.
That's right. Very
they
risky
probably
behavior.
do.
What's that
But,
called again?
I can't remember what is it
I
called.
can't remember.
Cordyceps.
But
Yeah, you have a fungus.
But the other thing
Fungus.
is so like I'm part of a group called Data Latte, where you can basically upload your data for research purposes, and you still retain ownership of your data, but you can allow people to use it when they request it and be compensated for that financially. And I think that that's a really great model. I think like one thing I've been learning about AI, because you guys brought this up in the conversation, is that one of the most valuable, so the large language models are really good reasoning tools. We were talking about this the other day, but they're not good knowledge tools. And so we can make them better and more productive by giving them access to information. So the more information that you own and share with these language models, the better information they can regurgitate or spit back to you. And so like for me personally, I want to aggregate and compile as much of my data as possible to be able to choose where I want to like help out and like give my data, whether I'm compensated financially or whether I believe in a cause and want to support it, can give my data to that thing to hopefully help achieve a positive outcome, down the road, whether it's like health research or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
I think that's a really cool, exciting possibility for the future.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, only the future
No, it's
will tell us.
Well,
something like that.
I have there. So I want to end this episode. We've got a bit of time here, but I wanted to end the episode talking about something that really kind of fucking blew my mind the other day. I'd never thought it. The thought never crossed my mind. So I was recording an episode of Turn Me On with Bridie, and which for folks who don't know is the other podcast that I host with my now ex-wife. Got divorced. Whoop whoop. And we talked to people about like sex and relationships and that sort of thing. And we were talking to this older gentleman. He was in his mid 70s. He's like this super hippy dippy dude from like San Francisco, the Bay Area. And he had some interesting things to say. But we were talking about like some mystic stuff that he was like getting into back in his hippie days and today actually. But in the conversation, he was also saying he was doing this work with his wife for years, and they were all about like extending orgasms and like tantra and that kind of stuff. And they would lead these workshops, and he's written like the two of them have co-authored books together, and they would, they like sort of dedicated their life to like really sweet orgasms. And
A noble pursuit.
yeah, and it was him and his wife for years. And in the conversation, it was kind of like just sort of in passing. He mentioned how now it's just him doing it because his wife has Alzheimer's, and she's pretty far progressed. And all of a sudden, I had this thought where I was like, "Oh, interesting. What about like?"
yeah, I know where you're
How
going with this.
Your whole life's work was about sexuality and like exploring pleasure and exploring sex with your partner, with your wife. And a big part of that was like being very sexual and exploring pleasure together. And I was like, how does that, can you still do that now that your wife has dementia? And he was like,
Interesting.
yeah, well, and so we went into the conversation about that. And it was the first time where I thought, whoa, I never thought about intimacy with a partner when Alzheimer's is in the picture. Because when we think about sex, a big part of the conversation surrounding sex with a partner is consent. And so it made me think, like, if you have dementia, can you give consent to have sex, or can you get consent from someone that has dementia to have like it to create intimacy with that person, sexual intimacy? And I did some digging, and I found this really interesting article that like really goes into it. And there is no like it's not very black and white. It's a very cloudy area.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I'd just kind of like go through this and we could talk about it. So can people with dementia give consent to having sex? When it comes to dementia, there are several ethical dilemmas that may develop as a result of changing cognition. One of those is a question that may make adult family members uncomfortable because it addresses sexual activity and intimacy, but it's a topic that often becomes necessary to address. The question is this: can people with dementia still consent to sexual activity? And if so, when do they become unable to do so?
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge of determining consent, can someone with dementia understand the decision they're making and the potential consequences? And clearly the answer isn't an easy yes or a no. So the goal in asking or attempting to answer the question of ability to consent is twofold. Number one, to prevent the sexual abuse of a vulnerable person who may be unable to fight or report it. But then two, to protect the rights of a vulnerable person to engage in mutual consensual sexual activity that is desired and promotes quality of life. So to the first point, due to the memory problems and communication difficulties that can develop in dementia, it is imperative to guard against the potential victimization of someone who is involved in sexual activity against their will. Older adults, and especially those who have cognitive problems, are an easy target for abuse of all kinds. Legally, a person must have the mental capacity to consent to a sexual act. The question of how to determine if that capacity exists is still a difficult one to answer.
Yeah, totally.
Is there a certain stage of dementia where it becomes illegal and immoral? So then to the second point, the second important question, which, is the question of like protecting the rights of someone who has the ability and like can engage in mutual and consensual sexual activity.
Seems like it would be a kind of like everything in the inverse.
Yeah, so dementia has come a long way in acknowledging that simply because Alzheimer's disease or a different type of dementia is present, the desire for intimacy is not automatically removed from that person. Nor
sometimes aren't they like
exactly.
hypersexual
Yes,
too?
and that actually plays into this.
Oh, interesting.
Nor does a person automatically or immediately lose the capacity to consent to sexual activity upon a diagnosis of dementia. Instead, research has identified the many benefits of touch for people with dementia, and dementia professionals have emphasized the importance of person-centered care in dementia. Some nursing homes and assisted living facilities have written policies on recognizing the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and sexual needs of those in their care. So, when we're deciding like what are the things to consider when you're looking for consent in having sex with another partner, I mean, for us, it's pretty straightforward. It's, is it a 100% clear yes? Enthusiastic yes. Like there's your consent. There's a lot more to the questions like to be considered with consent when it comes to someone with dementia. So recognition. So does each person consistently recognize each other? Do they know the name or room location of each other?
Mm-hmm.
Does one person mistakenly think the partner is her spouse when he is not? Interest is another one. Do they both seek each other out consistently? Is there an interest in simple companionship and friendship, or an interest in sexual intimacy? Another one is verbal and nonverbal communication of emotion. So what do their verbal and nonverbal communications say? When asked, does each person express a desire to spend time with each other? When you observe them interact, are both engaged with each other and appear happy? Can they answer questions about their relationship and indicate a desire for physical intimacy? The ability to say no is a big one. Does either person display a sign of distress, such as emotional withdrawal, fear, tearfulness, decrease in appetite, or physical recoiling from touch? Are both people able to say no verbally or non-verbally to unwanted sexual contact? Can each person indicate how far they wish to proceed with sexual interaction? For example, Is one person content with kissing and touching, and the other person attempting to progress to more intimate activities? And then you have vulnerability and effect of quality of life. So vulnerability, to what extent are those involved susceptible to exploitation? Does each person have the ability to report unwanted physical contact to someone? Is the person generally well supported by family, or are they quite isolated?
I feel like it's really, to me, like I'm thinking back on my experience with watching the progressiveness of Alzheimer's in Julia's dad. And the thing that strikes me about this, because this makes a lot of sense, but in my anecdotal experience, when you get a diagnosis, there's already a lot of things there that are like, you no longer have cognitive capacity to be able to like provide consent,
or at least not all the time.
Right. And so that's the interesting thing about, and I'm not saying that like once you get a diagnosis, that means no, but like the thing about Alzheimer's from my anecdotal experience is that a lot of those things in terms of your capacity to give consent are gone once you have that formal diagnosis. And I think that your ability to give consent goes fairly early in the process of getting a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
I feel like
the final thing there, the quality of life part, is does the relationship appear to improve the quality of life for both people?
Right.
And is it an established relationship of mutual commitment or a newer friendship? Like those are things to consider.
I feel like this is a super tricky thing to navigate if the person isn't in a relationship. Like it's not a partnership that has where one person has like evolved into.
Right. I think the way this was written is kind of like you're in a
relationship,
romantic partnership.
No. I think a lot of what's written here is written in the way of basically kind of assuming you're in a care facility and two people have dementia and they're just
Jesus.
sort of coming together and like maybe showing signs of like, hey, they really like each other's company, yada yada, whatever. I mean, that's fucking super interesting to think about.
I mean, very, very it's almost like it's.
But then I think about like my grandfather and my grandmother, right? Like when my grandmother, I mean, they both had dementia. My grandmother was way more progressed than my grandfather. But they also like they did have the sense that like when I was on the phone with them and stuff, Nan knew Pop, and Pop knew Nan.
But they probably had moments where they didn't.
They had these moments where there was that, and so it's like
I feel like it's not that dissimilar to. I don't mean to trivialize it, but like not that dissimilar to like possible sexual encounters when you're drinking, and like one person is like, "Hey, I've been drinking," but then another person's like, I've really been drinking.
Yeah.
And you go, and you just have like a moral compass, hopefully, that's telling you this, I shouldn't be having sex.
And now
with this person
in those situations,
having any type of like, sexual
and in that
interaction.
situation, pretty much 99.9% of the time, like you can't really like consent is very hard to equally receive and give in that moment.
That's not a trivial way to put it. I mean,
I just mean not to like equate dementia with being drunk. I just mean
I feel like situationally it's very similar to this. What this is laying it. I mean, like if you don't recognize the person, can't say their name, and but if don't like.
But okay, but how about this? If you don't like, how about this? If you don't recognize the person, right? Let's put it this way. Let's pretend that Kira and I, let's pretend that Kira got dementia, okay, and she's pretty far along progressed. And although like, and she's, and I'm taking care of her and she's not showing any signs of like, even though she doesn't quite recognize me, she's not showing any signs of like fear or avoidance of like, oh, stranger danger. Like, I don't want to, like, she's very comfortable in being around me and allowing me to care for her and yada, yada. And she doesn't know my name. She doesn't remember my name. She doesn't remember that we have like a long-standing relationship. And she, but all of a sudden she starts to like come on to me in a moment when we're, whatever, like, like watching a movie or something, or what, I don't know. Would you watch a movie with someone with dementia? Probably a waste of waste of a movie. But anyway, like, you know what I mean? Like we're like
a lot of people with dementia watch movies.
Sure. So we're spending
They
time.
watch it again.
So we're
like
spending time
kids.
together, and she starts to come on to me, but she doesn't know my name. Now we have all this history together, and she seems comfortable, and she's like looking for sexual advances. Obviously, if I was in that position, my mind I would have a fucking meltdown where I go, I don't
Totally.
know what to do. But also, I feel like if they were and this was outside of she's always just fucking like hypersexualized, like that's not a part of it. I feel like in that moment it would be okay if it's if she can verbally say that
I
she
think it
consents
comes
to this
down-
and those types of things. It's like, yeah, I guess
I think it
that
comes
makes
down
sense.
to being able to. I think it comes down in that situation to be able to like really honestly and authentically like navigate the way that you feel about what like the situation that you're in.
I
You know,
also
you as like an honest, kind-hearted person,
yeah.
being able to go, hey, like where are we
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
You know, and not
And that was the thing that I got from the guy that we had the conversation with, like on the podcast. And he said this really sweet thing where he was like, you know, it's a hard thing to navigate. And, but you know, it's not, he's a very like glass half full kind of guy where he was like, you know, one of the really nice parts about it is I find myself having, and it's really exciting for me. I find myself having to like re-seduce my partner. Like I find myself in a position where I'm like showing my partner that like it's like on the first date again, all over, and like over and over and over again. We were just like
51st dates.
showing this yes, dude, yes, like exactly like that.
But
and I was like, oh, that's really sweet.
I think
Like,
the
that's a
thing,
really sweet thing.
I think the thing that is also important is in that situation that you described, Jerry, like you're talking about what that experience is like in the moment, but really, I think what is really important and what this is kind of speaking to is that like really you have to understand the person and like their experience over you know a number of days and weeks and months to be able to understand their behavior in a way that it would align with them being consensual to sex in that moment. Like if outside of that moment, you know, in your situation that you're describing, Kier's like thinks that you're like is calling you like confusing you with like a family member or something.
Yeah,
and then
right.
all of a sudden in this moment she seems into it. Then it's like, oh well,
That's
is that
weird.
okay?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
It's
or
very-
if there's
right?
paranoia and thinking that like, you know, I'm poisoning her, like, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
like those types of things that they just like, there's the paranoia of like, oh, they're at to get
It's probably one of like the trickiest moral and ethical
Yeah.
situations that you could possibly.
Isn't it crazy that we
manage.
never thought about this though? Out of all
Yeah.
the times we talk about like dementia and stuff, like it never crossed my mind once.
Yeah.
I think I would find if I knew that Maddie had dementia or Alzheimer's and I was trying to navigate this, I think it would be really hard for me to be sexually like interested in the moment because that would just be in the back of my head so much
you
that
can
like
very much you can see how easy it would be to feel
Yeah.
like morally guilty.
yeah, like, oh, this isn't okay. I
Right.
I shouldn't do this. Or
Well, what if she walked in with a Bose speaker like,
Hey, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear.
it'll be game over at that point.
I mean, can like that changes everything plan.
well, here's another little piece to add to this that is fucking kind of wild to think about. Should sexual advance directives be utilized?
Oh,
I
interesting.
don't.
So in the Alabama Law Review, Alexander A. Boney Sains discusses the idea of allowing people to draw up a document that outlines their choices for sexual activity in the event that they become mentally incapacitated. For example, someone could
So
state
complicated.
that they want to continue to engage in sexual activity with their spouse upon their mental incapacity. The central thought of those who support this idea involves preserving the right to engage in mutually beneficial sexual activities, usually within a committed relationship, and preventing the possibility of criminal prosecution due to mental incapacity.
I think it would be really helpful to have a document like that, but also I don't think it would. I mean, the situation changes
It's
once
not-
that happens.
Well,
and
those against the idea point out that while someone may want his right preserved while his mental ability is intact, he may react differently when his cognition has declined. Alzheimer's disease and other dementias may change personalities, increase anxiety or agitation. Legally, the question may be referred to as the preferences and choices of the person's self versus the future self.
I actually take back what I was saying, and I also think like it's kind of the same idea as like you go out on like a first or second date with your potential partner one week, and they say yes to having sex. It doesn't mean the next week they're agreeing to consent to having sex too. So I know it's different, like being in that relationship, but like if somebody changes their mind,
it's not dissimilar to Maid in terms
Right,
of like
Yeah.
in terms of the original. I don't know if that changed, but the original form that Maid took in Canada, which was that you cannot make that choice.
You have to be of sound
after
mind.
you
Yeah.
are, after maybe you are not of sound, quote unquote sound mind, whatever sort of like definition that falls under. It's kind of similar to that. I mean, yeah, like how can you make the choice? How can you? I mean, because I can see how it's very easy to think that you can make that choice, but it's like if I always stuck to the choices and the things I thought that I wanted in a younger version of myself, then I wouldn't have a kid now.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
I just
Yeah.
always thought I would
I'll
never have a kid. And
Yeah.
that changed.
Yeah.
So like
The reason why I feel like I would want to do this, if anything, is because so I agree with you guys that there's the part where like maybe your mind changes or whatever, but also there's the prevention of possible criminal prosecution.
yeah.
Right? So like from like a law standpoint, it's like this protects your partner
Yeah.
from engaging in sexual activity with you, which might be like a completely innocent and like loving and good thing, yet somehow it gets seen as
Yeah.
an illegal like
Sexual
act
assault.
of sexual assault.
I don't know though. Like, I can't imagine a situation that could be seen as that unless there was something that like one of the
dude, that shit happened. That
But
shit happens all the time.
Think about then
What, like
some
what?
People get wrongly accused of stuff all of the time.
No, I know, but like, so in this situation, I can't see a situation where that would happen, where you would be wrongfully
think about
accused
two
of-
people.
And when
one
somebody
person
is
has dementia.
vulnerable-
One person has dementia, and they're a couple. One person has dementia. They seemingly engage in like a totally mutually consenting sex, and then let's say that this person with dementia has like a care worker that comes in and does whatever for them during the day. And then that person says something when they are maybe not of sound mind
Mhm.
or whatever to the care worker about
Mm.
their sexual encounter. And maybe it's completely misrepresentative
Mhm.
of what actually happened.
I mean, like,
Just in this
Yeah.
anecdotal. And then the care worker is
Yeah.
going to go,
Yeah.
oh shit.
I mean,
there might be sexual abuse happening in this house.
A good example is like when we talked to Mike Weber about the case of, I mean, and this is completely separate. It's a different thing, but it also just goes to show like, you never really thought about it that way, right? Where a mother is in, and this episode I don't think has come out yet, but basically we were talking about the Munchausen by proxy again.
Mm.
Was it just you and I on that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was.
And so he was talking about a case where a mother was in the hospital with her daughter. Her daughter was sick, and the mother went to the nurses and was like, "Hey, there's a bunch of blood in the toilet. Like my daughter was like throwing up blood." And because the daughter said, "Mom, I threw up a bunch of blood." And so the mother's like, "Okay." So she goes and she tells the nurse, "The blood all over the toilet. She threw up blood." So the nurses are like, "Holy fuck." They come in and they check. And this girl that was in the hospital, I think she had like a central line and like a feeding tube. They didn't know what was wrong with her. They're trying to figure it out. And the nurse goes in and the nurse looks in the toilet. But the thing that the nurse notices is that there's no splash anywhere. It's just red water. It's just blood water. And the nurse went, "That's fucking weird. Because if you're throwing up,
Goes everywhere.
it's going to go everywhere. It's going to make some sort of splash." So they get suspicious
That's very sleuthy.
and they end up bringing the detectives, and the detectives basically separate the mother and the daughter. And everybody at this point is thinking, this is the fucking mom. The mom is like coursing this daughter to say, this or that. And it turns out that once the detectives got involved, they end up going through the daughter and the mother's phones to find text messages and yada, yada, whatever. They end up finding out in the end that actually it was the daughter all along, and the daughter came out and apologized to the mother, and the mother agreed to have the daughter like taken away from her to get evaluated psychologically. And they were like, okay, the daughter has Munchausen, and the mother actually was like livid when she found this out. But if it wasn't for the detectives coming in to do their work, the med team, everybody involved, would have been looking at the mother as like, you're doing this, right? These types of things happen where like you could just be going along your day doing the thing that you think is just normal, and all of a sudden something happens, something said, something changes, and you get fucking like prosecuted for something that you have nothing to do with.
But gun to my head, if I had to choose which rule is better, which way is better, I would say not having the contract, because the contract could also be used by somebody who's abusing the contract and just saying, no, they agreed to this, even though clearly in this moment there's not consent now and the person feels differently. So like,
I mean, it's hard to say.
Like,
cost benefit
gun to my
analysis.
head, protecting a vulnerable person without having a contract that like locks them into something down the road, I would probably say it would be better to not have it. However, I can see how in different situations there would be, different benefits. I guess.
It is
tricky.
It is. And
matter.
One of the things too to like keep in mind here, and we've talked to occupational therapists about this, but like sex is like one of the key daily activities for like a quality of life. Like sex is such an important piece of quality of life for many people. And when you have a disease that all of a sudden potentially rips that away from you and or your partner, only because of how muddy the waters are surrounding like consent and mental cognition, it's really, really tough. I mean, the quality of life part is the part that like I just keep coming back to, which is like I can't imagine. That's got to be so fucking hard.
Something similar, something completely different, but in a similar line of thinking that I would love to talk about is something that I saw in a video from Big Think. Do you guys watch Big Think?
Yeah.
So I can't remember the guy's name now. I think his name is Kevin Reeves. I could be completely making that up. Anyway,
Keanu
Reeves. He did a couple of videos with on Big Think recently. One of them was like the men's diminishing role in society and like the sort of like the implications of that. And then there was another one with the same guy about the friendship diminishing in society, like the real friends. And like the implications that people having less friends or no friends, and a bunch of different reasons why that is, and like differences between what it means for men to have less friends, what it means for women to have less friends, whatever, like across kind of the spectrum. And it was really, really fascinating, just about like how important friendship is in terms of living a healthy life. It was really interesting.
Dude, that's what I was talking about in therapy today. I was to me, because I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but like I lost my job recently, and I'm going through this sort of like transition point where we're now like I'm
you lost a
now
job.
Going all in on podcasting stuff in a way that I haven't dedicated my time to before. And in this time of transition, when I think about like job transition, a lot of it has to do with like a lot of my thought process initially has to do with financial return of like investing in a job. And like the more I focus on the money aspect of things, or think more about the money aspects of things, the more I realize that that's not the key to happiness. And like, it sounds cliche to think about it. It sounds, like we say this sort of like obviously, like money isn't the key to happiness or whatever. But like when you really think about like the pursuit of money in the way that we work, it is a really important factor. It's probably the most important factor for a lot of people in determining like what job they do. But like in really thinking about this, I've been thinking less about the importance of money and more about the importance of like getting to work in the office with you guys
Totally.
every
Yeah.
day. And
But
like
doing
how-
the thing.
Yeah.
Like, dude, my Whoop strap, there's a new stress metric. And in the last 2 weeks of being here all day with you guys, my stress is down from 2 hours of elevated stress a day to an average of 18 minutes
Yeah.
of elevated stress.
Dude, you
That's
get a,
great.
you
That is-
get a, you get a school.
But that's crazy though, right?
Reach under your chair. There's a school for you. This is an Oprah. This is a clip from Oprah.
Thanks.
But imagine how
That's
happy,
crazy though,
Imagine
right?
how happy you'd
Totally.
be if you won $600 million today, though.
I mean, like,
oh,
I
undoubtedly.
would never be in the office again. I'd
I
be
mean,
like,
money.
fucking
You know,
see you guys.
money has a lot of upside
Good
to
to
it.
know.
A lot of money has a lot of upside to it, and
For sure
and,
it
and
does,
there's
yeah.
and the whole like you can only make this much money, and anything above that is no more happiness. That's fucking bullshit. But
Yeah, I want $17
Good thing
trillion
you're-
so I
good
can
thing-
fucking buy all the things that
and
I
it's
like.
and it's like psychologically proven that it's fucking bullshit.
I want to say though, it's not about money itself. It's about the pursuit of that as the
goal.
thing that's important.
Yes,
Let's
right?
become billionaires so everyone hates us.
yeah, but that is true because like I was actually thinking
That's a
about.
them problem.
I was thinking about. I was thinking about a person in my
Sorry,
life.
I actually didn't mean.
I was thinking about a person in my life that has far more money than I do, and
Your dad?
no, not my dad, and has a lot of like really nice things, and has a decent amount of free time, like at least outwardly that I can perceive, but like.
Does he get women to shit through hammocks into his mouth?
No, it's not Mike McAfee or whatever that guy's name is.
Okay. I was just checking.
But then I thought, man, I know that I make far less money, and if I actually had to like think about our contentment levels and our ability to like move fluidly throughout life and like make decisions and like change something on a whim, it's like because of the way that I pursue money, which is like in a self-employed manner, which basically means that like if I want, there's like a lot of freedom within that. Like that freedom is like way more valuable than
Yeah.
a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
Like a pay cut in relation to somebody who makes a lot of money or making way less, quite a bit less than somebody who makes a lot of money, can oftentimes be, especially if you enjoy what you're doing and you enjoy what you're doing, who you're doing it with, like that's worth 50 grand. Like it is, because the amount of stress that you will not take on or 1,000 other things, you'll get back in freedom, contentment, low stress, free, whatever.
I do think about the challenge for some people, like my mom, though, for example, who like works 3 low-paying minimum wage jobs, who is just kind of like stuck in doing that too,
Mhm.
and how hard it is for people like that to get out and like to get out of that hole, and also to think about things like this of like what they value in terms
Yeah.
of employment, when it's like what they really value or maybe just more importantly need is like the paycheck.
I think there's a lot of similarities between people that are in that scenario and people that are on the opposite end of that. And they are on a hamster. They make a lot of money, but they are on a hamster wheel of they have to do a million things to keep that high paycheck coming in. And the room for them to be able to do things. Like, I think that there's a lot of similarities between either end of the spectrum.
Yeah. And so,
And then there's a middle ground. There's a middle ground somewhere. I don't know how wide or big that middle ground is. I don't know where it starts and where it ends.
Yeah.
But there's something to it. And I think there's a lot of variables, obviously.
Yeah.
What we need
So-
is we need communism.
yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, I think the point to all this is just like, let the people with dementia fuck.
dude, guys, I got to pee so bad.
How do we get onto the money thing?
I don't know. We started
Let's
talking
talk
about,
about work. And what's important in terms of
I brought something up about friendship and that started going.
yeah. What I was saying is I love you guys and I'm happy to be doing this.
I
with
love you too.
And yeah. And if you get dementia,
You'll fuck me.
I'll still fuck you, dude.
We might need to put together
Put
a
it in writing.
contract.
That's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in. We love you all. We love our patrons more, and we love the people on our Discord just as much. So if you want to join the Discord, just hit the link in the bio. If you want to support the podcast, leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We got over 2,200 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Keep it rolling, everybody.
That's cool.
We
Let's
need
get more.
more.
On Spotify, leave a rating. If you have the mobile app, just Spotify on your phone. You just go there. Boop, boop, boop,
Because
boop, boop,
Spotify,
boop, boop.
big podcast player these days.
That's right. So leave that. It actually helps. It helps. So thank you, and
That's
we love that.
Also, honestly, like guys, I did really lose my job, my other job, and
job.
like this is now
The job.
the job, and so any way that if you guys like this and you want to help out, that would be really helpful. Thanks.
Did you
So,
mean like send you money?
No, like rate the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Do stuff like that.
Don't
Like send us like
don't send Brian a direct transfer.
engage. Just engage
Yeah, just engage. Engagement.
and share.
Engagement. Share. And sell us your data. Hop on over to the website. You want to be a guest on the show? You want to keep this bad boy rolling? sickboypodcast.com. There's a nice button there. You can click it. It'll give you a form. You can fill it out.
Mm-hmm. And big shout out again to the Logan Boulet effect.
Green Shirt
Happy
Day.
Green Shirt Day. And a huge shout out to Jeff Lonis, our manager, and Rich O'Coin for the theme music. We love you both.
That is it for this week.
I am Brian.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.
And we say now.